Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dark Cloud Podcast, where we attempt to lift the dark cloud off of your shoulders on many different subjects. And we are joined here today by a very good friend of mine, Marta Greca, and she is a financial planner. She is the author of many best-selling books. She's also a mother of 7 children. And she does, I don't know, so many things that I can't even keep track of at this point. It's just unbelievable, but we're going to discuss them all here today, and we're definitely going to start talking about financial planning because that is something that is a dark cloud over everybody's shoulders, and especially when you have a medium to lower income tax bracket and you think you can't save, and you think it's impossible. So we want to make sure that you know it is possible and that you can have some success at it. But Marta, I want to start talking about your background a little bit.
Sure. I'm Marta Sauret Greca. I am a financial planner. I call myself a wealth-being strategist for families. However, for 10 years, I had a marketing agency that did very well. I was making $50,000 a month while homeschooling my kids, and life was good until it wasn't, and until sales started to drop. And when you make a lot of money in your business, all the banks are offering you credit cards or offering you loans, and you're like, sure, I'll sign on for these. It'll just increase my credit score, and I'm never going to use them. Right. You never think that when you're doing that well that you're ever going to use them. So I ended up having to use them because the market in general, the economy in general, the U.S. economy changed, and so my revenue started to decrease significantly and very quickly. And it was honestly a combination of that and a combination of me losing my mom. And in trying to grieve that and in trying to get out of that and trying to figure that out, I did get into the financial planning world. And I had to max all of those things out. I kept it going way longer than I probably should have. I made some mistakes, and I utilized every ounce of credit that was available to me until they were all maxed out, and then until I couldn't pay them. And so this was years ago now, but the process of handling that and addressing that actually takes years. So I'm still paying for it, but in that whole journey is how I became a financial planner and how I help families to make better decisions so they don't make the mistakes that I did. And I think that that's what allows me to have more compassion and patience and zero judgment because of what I went through. I tell families, there's nothing you're going to show me that I'm going to have any opinion about. It just is what it is, and can we do better? And I do help families save hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest when we come up with with plans of paying off debt, and then how they can become hypothetically potentially millionaires when it comes to retirement. And it honestly starts from a little bit over a long time. And like you said, I'm a mom of 7. First and foremost, above
mom
all
of
that.
7.
Yeah.
And I can definitely relate to that because I know when my husband died, we maxed out everything. We maxed out every credit card. We maxed out the life insurance policy. Any donations that we could, we maxed out, and we tried to live a normal life. And we should have been saving some of that instead of trying to live a normal life. And not thinking, we're thinking, oh, we're going to get a job, or oh, we're going to get this, we're going to get that, and we're going to be okay. And we weren't okay. And I'm sure people judge me harshly now for doing it, and
I don't think anybody judges you harshly for the situation that you were in. But it is a perfect situation because a lot of times people have these policies maybe through work for life insurance, or they took out what, they were like, I'm never going to need this. Let me just get the least amount possible just so I feel like I've covered. But you can attest, within a year or two, a policy can be gone like that.
Exactly.
And so that is where I come along and I say, okay, how much are you making now? Okay, what are the debts? What are the investments in place? What do you have already in place with life insurance? Does it have this? Does it have that? Does it have this? Okay, here's what I recommend. And so I became a financial planner because of the situation that I found myself in financially, but I originally got into the financial space with life insurance because I did lose my mom.
Right.
And her end of life was really difficult for her, obviously, and it did not look the way that she wanted it to look. And
Right.
I didn't get to be there with her the last moments. I was kicked out of her hospital room
Oh my
because I had
goodness.
just given birth to a baby, and he wasn't crying. He was literally like a purse I was carrying around. He was literally just born. And here my mom was in the hospital, unfortunately passing away, and I was kicked out because I brought in my newborn baby. And so before I could get back to the hospital, she passed away. And it wasn't even like they politely asked me to leave. They brought 2 security guards who knocked on the door
Are you
and
serious?
escorted me out
Oh
of
my
the hospital
goodness.
for bringing a baby. And so, number 1, my mom didn't want to pass away in a hospital. She wanted to pass away at home. Number 2, she always made me promise I would be there. And I couldn't. And so I thought to myself, this is such a horrible situation that I think that God wants me to learn from this and wants me to do something better. So I got to learning about life insurance and what could be different about her policy. And there is something called an accelerated death benefit when you have an end-of-life diagnosis, like she did, like cancer. You are able to access up to 40 to 60% of that for your end-of-life care. It depends on what state you're in, but in Pennsylvania, which you know very well because you work in personal care,
Yes.
it's all out of pocket unless you get to a certain point where you qualify for skilled nursing, at which point your health insurance will cover that. But it's a really understaffed and overworked industry.
It is.
So unless you have the money, you can attest to it.
I can definitely
Unless you
attest
have
to
the
it.
money to out of pocket take care of yourself and your loved ones in a way that is beneficial, in a way that is ideal, you're really at the mercy of what your health insurance would cover. And in her case, it was skilled nursing, which she suffered a lot because they were so understaffed. There was times when she would call us and she was in extreme pain because they hadn't given her pain medication in time. And there was nothing I could do. I was literally giving birth. I mean, she was on her deathbed and I was giving birth. And then they will, obviously cover a hospital stay. And unfortunately, the ugly truth is that hospitals do make money if individuals do pass away on their premises. They're paid a certain amount, especially during COVID. And so nobody told us, hey, you can take her home and you can qualify for hospice and you can have her end-of-life care look this way. We're just thinking we're at the mercy of this. This is what we're doing.
Right.
And so in that journey, I learned so much. So not only can I educate on the proper life insurance, I know what it's going to look like at the end, because thank God she did have life insurance, even though she didn't have these they're called living riders.
Right.
Because then when she passed away, right at the same time, my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so right away, we're having to figure out, what do we do with Dad? And thank God we had her life insurance policy as a little bit of cash that was there to cover about 10 months of his care. And then we sold their condo, and then we had about 3 months worth of care, and 3 years worth of care. And guess what happened now? It's 3 years later, and I'm in the thick of it again. I am filling out Medicaid applications and having to figure out, there's a benevolent care at his facility. Is he going to have to move out? How are we going to pay? He had a dentist appointment that I had to push to next year because the health insurance will only cover a certain amount, and he maxed out what his health insurance will cover for the year. And now all of a sudden his medications this past last month of December fell through this loophole.
Yes.
And they're not covered. And so these are all things that's what life insurance is for. That's what financial planning is for. And that's what I'm here for. Because I'm here to, from a non-judgmental space, to tell you exactly what you're gonna need, so that this journey of taking care of your loved ones, right? You're thinking ahead to what you want that to look like for your kids.
Right.
And you're gonna have that money set aside for them to give you proper care, so that they're not stressed out of how am I going to pay for this?
Definitely. And the thing is, you want to set that better example for your kids. And I know I set a terrible example, and my thing is, I want to set that better example for my kids and show them, look, this is our budget now. This is what we want to do, and this is where we need to go. And we're trying to work together to do that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a family effort. But you had the dark clouds of not only your mom passing away, you had your business closing, and you had, what was it? Your business closing. Why am I blanking
Well, I don't
here?
know if we mentioned it or not, but I mean, through that, my family is my number one priority, but I did have 2 children who received the diagnoses of autism.
Oh,
one
yes.
of whom was struggling significantly with agoraphobia as a symptom, and as a mixed diagnosis of she has anxiety, she has social anxiety, and she has agoraphobia. Well, luckily a therapist was able to see, I think these are just symptoms of a deeper rooted problem. And so
Right.
it was a very difficult time where I couldn't even, oftentimes I was taking calls from the school parking lot, making sales calls, from the get-go across the street.
Yes.
I couldn't get her in the building of her school because of because of all the issues, but she is thriving now.
That is wonderful to hear. As a fellow autism mom, I definitely, that is wonderful
She's
to hear.
thriving now. She's got a really successful drop shipping business. I don't even know how it works. Sometimes I try to explain it to people, and she's like, "No, Mom, that's not how it works." And she knows. She does pet sitting. As
She
you
does
know,
pet sitting,
and
yes.
babysitting. In fact, right now she's babysitting for a wonderful family because she does do online schooling.
So basically, she's going to be another entrepreneur, just like her
She
mom.
already is. Yeah, she already is.
About the credit card debt,
Yes.
how do you suggest people get out of it? Because there's just millions and millions of people that have this problem.
Yeah.
And they have either businesses fail or they have a tragedy. People like everybody says, you're one tragedy away from all of this happening to you.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that?
So again, I experienced this firsthand because I maxed it all out and then I couldn't pay it. So I did have to go the route of, it was either going to be bankruptcy, which wasn't an option, which I won't get into the logistics of that, but it wasn't an option for us legally. We sought counsel, or it was settlements, and it was settlement. So I did enter into settlement with all the creditors, and all of them but one were willing to settle, and one of them actually escalated to the point, it's been drawn out for years now. And it escalated to the point because of poor legal counsel who wasn't doing their job, that they actually sent a sheriff to our home to levy our personal property and put it up for sheriff's sale.
my
And we weren't
goodness.
home. They don't tell you when this is going to happen. They don't give you notice that this is going to happen. It just happens, and we weren't home, and my teenagers had to open the door as they're watching their younger siblings for this, and
That had to be so traumatic.
for them, yeah. I mean, that was my first concern is, when they're calling me and telling me this is happening, it's, how are you? Are you okay? Like,
Right.
what questions do you have? What can I answer for you?
Right.
And truthfully, it was a big misunderstanding, and it de-escalated, and none of that needed to happen. And but it just is what happened. So from that experience, I like to help families avoid that. So there is that option that some people will say, don't go that route because then you'll have to pay taxes on the amounts that they forgive. Okay. But they're still forgiving the amount.
Yeah.
But definitely do the math of, does this make sense? Because there are a lot of debt settlement companies out there who will say, hey, here's this relief, and then you do the math at the end of it, and you're like, I ended up paying way more than
I
what
was
I
about
owed.
to say, usually there's a lot of debt settlement
Right.
companies, and it's like, wait
Right.
a second, I wasn't paying this much when I was paying the credit cards.
Exactly. Yeah. So but there are some that are good, and then there is, if you don't want to use a debt settlement company, most of them are willing to work with you.
Yeah.
So there were banks who we just worked it out ourselves, and either what can you pay each month, or do you have this lump sum to give us, and then we'll forgive it. You'd be surprised at what they're willing to do, because we were not alone in this. I mean, all of America was going through this.
Right.
So this experience allowed me to I think just be completely non-judgmental when the most surprising of families that you would think they're living large, they're doing well,
Right.
they're making big money, they're also spending big money, and there is no shame in that because it's just such an easy thing to happen because of circumstances. And so we do have a system where we will write them all out, one by one by one by one, and we come up with a plan instantly of, okay, what do we do first, what do we do next, and here's how long it'll take, and here's how much we'll save in interest. And that's something that I do individually with people. And then there is that conversation of, okay, we've laid it all out, we there's nothing else we can do, what can we do? And at that point, that is when I would recommend settlement.
Since we have a little Christmas interruption here, that's no problem. But that I love that you lay that out, and it's kind of a snowball effect.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
getting everything paid off
Yes.
and everything. Now, what about paying yourself and saving and the saving along that side?
Yeah, so I would recommend, and this is something that I definitely got away from during this time, and this is something that I've gotten back into of any time that that we're making a certain amount of money, is that first 10% goes to tithing. So if you do have a church that you go to, you do donate that to your church. If you don't, think of your favorite nonprofits. We have two, right? We have Treasure House Fashions and the Global Sisterhood, right? Mine currently, goes to various churches. There's a church that we go to, there's the church that we do Bible study with, there's the church that our homeschooled kids go to co-op.
Right.
There's the church that is, that runs my mom group. So I try to separate it out according to the 4 different churches that I feel support my family's journey. Now, and then some does go to the Global Sister. Oh, for sure, goes to the Global Sisterhood and
Yes,
Treasure
we
House
have to
Fashion.
shout out to Shelly Hipsky, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, Shelly.
And Sally Power, yeah.
And Sally
so
Power,
I definitely,
yes.
my money definitely goes to both of them as well. And then there is a separate account for where the checks come out. So I was big on I would write a check and then I would forget that I wrote it completely.
Yes.
And so I have the separate account that when I write a check, I just transfer that money into that account, and I just don't even, it's like I already spent that money. It's not accessible to me. And then I have the account that the automatic withdrawals come out for the bills. And the account for the checks is also where I will put money ahead of time for taxes now, which we were behind on our taxes too, way behind. And there's just so much to that story. I'm trying not to digress, but and then there's a personal account that is just for spending, for going out and getting your coffee, for your shopping if you like to shop. I'm not a big shopper, but I do love experiences. I love traveling. I love going out to eat.
Right.
So if you have that, because there's a lot of families out there who love doing all that stuff, but then they feel guilty every single time they tap that card or swipe that card or insert the card or hit pay,
Right.
because they don't really have a plan for it. But if you know that you have a plan for it, then there's no shame in that, right? Because you already planned for it. So go ahead, go out to eat, get your coffee, and do your shopping.
I think people forget that even in the worst of times, you can still treat yourself to a cup of coffee, or you can still, go get your nails done or something like that.
And I believe in it. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you make it all hard, and if you make it all torture, and you're not gonna stick to the plan.
Because a lot of families, they just focus on, I want to be debt free, I want to be debt free, I want to be debt free, I want to just hack away at that debt. Okay, but then you kind of get into a situation where you're just feeling stringent and broke all the time, even though you're making, let's say, $300,000 a year or $200,000 a year.
Right.
So we have our amount that we pay towards our debt every month that we've agreed upon with the banks. We still have one that we're working out for, a settlement. I'll be fully honest, but something happened recently on our social media, and I can talk about that. I don't want to digress too much, but I will talk about that. I just want to put a bow on this. But even though we have these that we're still taking care of, we still will find the little joys in life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to. especially when you have kids.
Oh yeah, 7 kids. Yeah.
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 See, my thing and my kids didn't understand that. My kids actually got upset because one of the things I like to do is go to concerts.
Okay.
And I'm a big concert fan. And they saw me go to a couple concerts this year, and they're like, "Mom, we don't have any money. Why are you going to concerts?"
Because no, it makes complete sense that you would do that.
Yeah.
Because, like, what's life for if it's not to be enjoyed? But
Yeah.
it is good to meet with the person to come up with that plan, or even with yourself.
Yeah.
And then it's important to take a look at your accounts on a regular basis. A lot of people don't really check that stuff often enough, and it can really happen pretty quickly. I mean, there was a $40 charge that came from Apple just the other day that I had to quickly call Apple, get it refunded. It was a mistake.
Right.
But if I hadn't looked at my account, I would have never noticed.
Exactly. Or there's that Planet Fitness membership you forgot about.
My kids are my teenage son is very guilty of that, and I called Planet Fitness because he actually had 2 Planet Fitness memberships.
Oh my gosh.
For like a year. He never noticed until because I do try to give them their own autonomy, and they're responsible for their own finances. So I was able to get that reimbursed for him.
Yes.
Or there's actually memberships that you cancel, and you think, oh, they've got it. I canceled it. I filled out the form.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I noticed that 2 big memberships still came out, even though I canceled them because we don't need them.
Yeah, they're free.
Right.
So you just gotta take a look at your accounts.
There's an Audible membership that I still can't get rid of, and I don't know, and I can't sign into it, so I can't even use it at this point. But they still charge me $15.95 a month.
There you go. You got to figure that out, right?
But yeah. But no, this makes sense, and it also, I think, is something. It's a kinder version of financial planning and debt relief for families, knowing, because I know Dave Ramsey and
he's just very judgmental.
He's very judgmental. Susie Orman, yes, all very.
They're not nice.
And I don't think they've ever experienced that before.
Which is
and if they did,
mind-boggling to me, because Dave Ramsey went through bankruptcy himself. And,
right.
Michael Chuck, I think that's how you say his name. He's the author of Profit First. Great book.
Right.
Great books. But I don't see him to be that judgmental at all. But he started his journey as a financial advisor from somebody who maxed out $1 million plus line of credit that needed to be paid back instantly, and had the moment where his child is hearing about this and bringing over his piggy bank. We all have those little come to Jesus moments of why we do what we do. And I have mine. I've shared it here. But, so I'm big on social media because I had a marketing agency. Now I have a content creation boutique. Sounds like the same thing. They're very different. But I'm on social media every day. I love it. It fills me up. I just think it's so much fun, and I get tons of inquiries every day from my efforts. So. But what would also happen when you become visible is that people who don't know things think they know it all, and so they will definitely troll you once you get to a certain point. And I did have somebody troll me recently, and it kind of like once one person trolls, then another person will troll. And like they
get brave.
So I had to address that because they were like, be careful of something like, be careful of those peddling financial advice who can't even handle their own finances, and linked this public record that is available to anyone, because I am a financial planner. I am required by FINRA, or I am fined to report every single one of my settlements and my judgments. And if I had a bankruptcy, but I don't have any bankruptcies, there's no judgment if somebody has. So he linked that, and so luckily I didn't even see it, because I don't even, there's so many comments, so many notifications and all of the different posts. And luckily my friend was like, hey, just so you know, this, like, what do you want me to say, because this guy commented and I want to be there and support you, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. And so I addressed it, and I said, this is interesting and everything, but what's much more interesting is the bestseller that I already published about this. So
I think I did see that comment.
If you wanted to, actually learn the whole story, you could go buy the book. But best of luck to you. You sure are quick. And
wouldn't you want advice from somebody who's actually experienced
it? I
it?
would hope so.
I mean, like you said, you're taking advice from Dave Ramsey. He's been through a bankruptcy. I mean,
and I've never hidden it. I've always been honest about it, and I certainly have my imposter syndrome about
Yes.
it, and that's why I've always been so like, hey, forthcoming about like, hey, I've been through it. Trust me, like, I will not judge you. I have made my share of mistakes.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, and something that I try to remember is that I built a business from nothing that reached 50 to 60K months while homeschooling 5, 6, 7 kids while being the primary provider in my family.
Right.
I would love to know if any of those trolls have ever done that. I would love to know if
No.
any of those trolls have ever done that.
Yeah.
If they could even survive one day doing that.
Yeah, it's one of the dangers of putting yourself out there.
Right.
When we do put ourselves out there, we do run that risk, but at the same time, you know,
It's totally worth it, because I
it's-
did have somebody who thought she was well-meaning saying,
Yes.
this is why as a financial planner I don't post online, because this is the kind of stuff you get. If you ever want my advice, don't do what you're doing, and you know there's a much simpler way to do it. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is really simple for me and I'm fine with it. And you know what happens?
Yes.
In person, when you're networking and putting yourself out there, people are still saying this stuff.
Yeah.
You're just not brave enough to say it to your face.
Yeah.
At least I can address the trolls because I can see the comments.
Exactly. My lawyers do the same thing. My lawyers scream at me about posting online. Don't do this, don't do that. And it's like, I'm sorry. It's like when you're one of those people that is just very open about what you do and
Yeah.
just very public, and it's just something that is in you and you want to share. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're private, that's absolutely fine. But
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. It's to each their own.
to each their own.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, any last tips as far as finding a financial planner? Like, right, obviously, we want them to
Reach
call
out
you.
to me.
We want them to call you, and we're going to put your information up online.
But
definitely.
if I'm not your vibe, don't reach out to me. Find somebody who can help you. I mean, your bank has financial planners. You walk in any bank, and they have separate offices that within the branch that can help you. So if it's not me, just somebody. But the caveat is that as I was going through it, as I was making big money, I reached out to everybody and I said, I'm making a lot of money. I need help figuring out how to manage it. And bookkeepers, CFOs, CPAs, accountants, they all have different jobs, but it's not this job that we're talking about. It's not what I do. So find somebody who's going to be able to do that.
Now, what about somebody who is middle to lower income? How can you help them?
That's my favorite kinds of people to help, because it really does start small over a long period of time, but get started. Even if you have debt, don't just focus on that debt. You should still be building your investments while you work on the debt. Don't wait till you're debt free, because I mean, this is going into opening up a whole other can of worms, but typically when it comes to having debt, it's not just a habit. It is a personality trait, right? And so if you're constantly waiting to get out of debt before you start investing, you're likely constantly going to be in debt. So that's why we get to meet with families who have debt, and sometimes they have no debt, which is awesome. Sometimes they have $300,000 to invest with me, and that's it, and that's great, right? But don't wait until that's done in order to.
Even if you have $50 a month, maybe
25.
25?
Yeah, I mean, I tell my kids, as soon as they get their jobs, I do the math for them and I show them, if you do $25 a month for this next 60 years, because you know my youngest teenager is 14,
Right.
That's over $1 million. Hypothetically speaking, depending on the market and the fund that you choose. I never like to say numbers or guarantees. I have to say that. There's never any guarantees, but hypothetically speaking, depending on the fund and the market and how everything performs and everything goes for you, even $25 a month for 60 years, you could potentially have over $1 million.
And even at my age, 49, I could still start now and have something at least going into retirement.
And by the way, while we were going through all of this, I had to drain my investments. To save the house that we were living in, which is a whole other story that you can read in my book and course corrected. But I started over again, right?
Yeah.
And I have had clients, and you know, in 2025 there was a 40% increase of hardship withdrawals from 401ks, and
Right.
we don't do that lightly because you do pay at least a 10% penalty plus the taxes on that.
You do.
But you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But just start over. You
Yeah.
know, don't stop.
And there's no judge, and this is the one thing that why I wanted to bring Marta on, because there is no judgment on here, and you can start fresh again. And all you have to do is ask for help, and there are people like Marta out there who will not judge you,
No.
and will keep you in mind, and will help you. And we are eternally grateful that
Thanks.
you came on today.
Yeah. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. So hopefully your dark cloud on financial planning and debt was lifted. I think mine definitely was. So I'm probably going to use Marta for my financial planning.
Great.
So this has been Dark Cloud Lifted. Have a great day.